Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. So, our talk will be about an efficient methodology that we can apply to the space domain. So, we'll be mainly talking about EBIOS Risk Manager, and especially a new use case that we have developed for the training kits of EBIOS Risk Manager trainings. So, at the end of the presentation, I expect you to have a good view on EBIOS Risk Manager for those who are not really familiar with the methods, why we can use it in complex environments, and also why the new use case that we have developed for the training kit may be useful for you for training purposes and onboarding new people on your projects. So to do so, okay. So we do not have the agenda, but it doesn't matter. So first, we'll have a view a bit on the origin of the projects. Then we'll deep dive a bit into EBIOS Risk Manager methods. And finally, we'll present the use case for design in space context. So a bit of the origin of the project. So here. So since 1995, EBIOS Risk Manager is a method developed by the National Cybersecurity Agency of France. And it's an evolving method and a mature one. As you may have heard earlier this year, version 1.5 of EBIOS Risk Manager has been released at the FIC. To support EBIOS Risk Manager, there is the Club EBIOS. And we have here today Paul Varela, administrator of the club, who will just have a few words to present it briefly.
Thank you, Eva. So good morning, everyone. So thank you, Eva, for the introduction. So I'm really pleased to be here. So just a few words on the Club EBIOS. So I'm an administrator indeed in this community. So what is the club? So it's a group of experts in the security risk assessment, especially in EBIOS, so the methodology developed by the National Cybersecurity Agency in France. And we support the agency from the beginning in its implementation, so basically to provide guidance and return of experience on how we use the methodology from the beginning with the different version of EBIOS up to now with the EBIOS Risk Manager. Recently also we launched an exercise that also finished, and the new version of the EBIOS Risk Manager was, well, with some improvement, was published in the FIC. So this is what the Club EBIOS is doing by supporting ANSI, and we launched a project for ICS, so to show that we can use also EBIOS Risk Manager not only for classic IT systems, but also for complex systems. And this is where you have the presentation from Eva, so to show how also it can be used on space. So, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. So I'll just switch to next slide. So as you know, risk management is key in complex systems and especially in space. And so we have decided when responding to the call for tenders to create a use case focused on space system. And we are relevant on the subject because basically we work on cybersecurity in the space domain, and we have also expertise in training fields. So that's why I'm presenting the project today. And even if I am speaking, I have not done the project alone. We have Etienne Gérin, Philippe Nara, and Médéric Vigroux, who have also worked on this with me. So let's just say a few words about EBIOS Risk Manager. So as we said, it is a method and a toolbox designed to manage risks. It is published, well, by the National Cybersecurity of France, you've heard it, but it is not only used in France, it is also used in Europe and even internationally. This method is now fully compatible with ISO 27005, and that's why you may find it useful to use in your context. This method can be used for digital risks, to set up a risk management process, but also to define the level of security you want to reach in a project or on a specific program. So I guess you all work in space, so if you are working on a new project at system level, you may want to use Abios Risk Manager to define your overall risks. But if you are a manufacturer or a developer, for example, of antennas, you also may want to use this method to manage the risk on your specific subsets. So this is quite adaptable, and you can use it whatever with whatever type of organization. So I mean, if you're a private or a public organization, it suits you, and no matter your sector or the size of your company. So we've seen with Vanessa earlier that risk management is key and that you should apply security measures based on basic principle and then focus on your sector. So basically it's a good introduction because that's what Abios Risk Manager is doing. So it enables you to focus first on a compliance approach before moving on to a scenario-based approach. So for your compliance approach, you may choose basic hygiene rules. So for example, if your national cybersecurity agency publishes it, we have it in France, but basically it's not the only referential you can find. And also you may want to find standards that you want to be compliant with in your sector, for example, NIST or CCSDS. And then you can move on to a scenario-based approach. So you may wonder why. Basically, I would say that you don't want to spend time and money building risk scenarios on a system on which, for example, the network isn't even segregated. It's not worth it. You will lose time and money. It's better to proceed in this way. So it's basically organized itself in 5 workshops, and workshop 1 is the compliance workshop that I've been talking about since the beginning. So first you do this, and then you move on to a risk scenario approach from workshop 2 to 4, where you take in consideration the threats that apply to the environment, to your sector, etc. And finally, in workshop 5, you can treat the risks, define the right security measures, and do what you want to do in regard to your policy and how you want to reduce the risks. Through all these workshops, you will involve a lot of people, whether they are manager or technical experts, and it will enable to have a good vision and a complete vision on the threats, the technical scenarios, but also the decision criteria that you want to apply on your risks management. As we said earlier, Abios Manager isn't only a method, it's also a toolkit. And this table really shows you that it is not only to conduct a complete risk study from A to Z, which you can do, obviously, but you can also use the method to do many other things, such as support you for penetration testings, for example, to define more your context and the objectives you want to reach. Also, this method is quite large, and you can address really all type of risks with it. So if you want to deal with signal disruption, you can do it. If you want to deal with an employee trying to steal data from you, you can do it. And this is quite good, obviously, because, well, I mean, you can really appropriate the method. These are examples of what you have as outputs of the workshops. So as you can see, it is quite visual and it can speak to a lot of people in your organization. So if you want to report on the risk that you may find on your system, you may use these charts that you find at the end of the workshop to present it to your managers or to your director, etc. And it will be really visual for them to understand what you're talking about. And finally, I would say that you can really use it in all sectors. So these types of organization that you see on the screen are examples published by the National Cybersecurity of France, showing organizations that have used EBIOS Risk Manager. So you can find that it has been used internationally, at European level, and also in the space context with Galileo. Okay, so now that you have a better vision on EBIOS Risk Manager and why you can use it, obviously we are going to move on to the case study that we have built for EBIOS training kits. So just a few words on it. It's a training kit meant to be used by trainees, so by people who are not, who may not be familiar with space context. So in order to make the training support accessible by everyone, we have decided to simplify a bit the system that I'm going to present. So it may not be completely representative of what you can find in your everyday life, but it has the key points, and I think you can find in the kit, in the training support, many of the challenges that we face every day. So our system is basically so a constellation controlling the pesticide concentration on the ground. So it relies both on satellite in space and on sensors on the ground to gather data, transmit it, and provide it to the end users. So it provides data in real time and also provides maps and reports. So that's the basis. So you have a space segment, a ground segment, a user segment, but we will not be focusing on everything, but I'll detail it later. Among this case study, we have defined the mission of the system, how it works, what are the key elements for a student afterwards when using the training kits to identify clearly the mission of the system, the threats, the feared events, etc. Additionally, within the study, we also have integrated many challenges that we find in the space sector. So you may think of signal disruption, the fact that we have multiple sites to handle the real-time system context, etc. And to do so, we'll detail a bit what we have included later, but I'll just introduce it now. We have voluntarily integrated in the audit reports some vulnerabilities, and this will be used by the student when building the attack scenarios. So one thing that we have in space system that is quite specific to space system, obviously, is that we have many actors involved. So in our system, we also wanted to show this. So we basically have an owner of the system. We have an operator. But we also have multiple designers and several companies that are specialized in the development and the maintenance of the antennas and the satellites. So that's a lot of people, but that's representative of our world. And obviously, what you see in the picture is also that we have many sites spread around Europe. So for the antennas, for the sensors, for the mission and control centers, so it's also quite representative of the constellation that we have now and that are running. For the sake of the training kits, we have decided not to focus on every segment. So we have decided to focus on the ground segment, especially on the mission and control center and on the stations on the ground. This doesn't mean that the rest isn't described in the study. So you may want to use it if you want to, but as the trainee will have to perform a first set of this risk analysis in a limited time, we have decided to reduce the perimeter for them to be really able to address the threat that we wanted them to. So this is one of the views that you'll find in the training kits. So it enables to represent the interaction between the mission center, the control center, and different stations and sensors on the ground. So basically, I will not get into all the details because if you want to work on it, you'll be able to have a view on it later. But the idea is to show all the potential entry points and interactions that you have between them all. And finally, I'll show you also the view on the left, which is a technical view of the system. So we have integrated industrial control system, basically, with IoTs, etc., on the ground. And also, you will be able to find this view in the training kits. So along with this figure, you'll find an audit report. That's what I was introducing a bit earlier. And within these audit reports, we have integrated all these weaknesses within. So it's not stated this way. Basically, we have illustrated these weaknesses through examples and through weaknesses in the audit reports. But you'll find a system where the administrator use personal hard drive to copy data because, well, their infrastructure is really long. And also, you find the difficulties that they have to update their system because it's real-time system. They haven't designed it to enable to have the updates in parallel. So basically, they have a single point of failure that they cannot turn off because if not, the system doesn't work. And so you find outdated system and operating systems, etc. So all these elements are expected to be used in the audit reports and especially in the attack scenarios. And through this view and this view, they will be able to get the full scenarios, entry points, where the attacker can go, and if he can reach the mission or the control center to alter data, etc. So this, I hope this has given you a bit of a view of the system. So for you, I guess it will be useful for onboarding and training purposes. So for example, if you are an expert in cybersecurity, but not in the space domain, you may want to address these challenges through a study case to, well, make you aware of the challenges of the domain. Also, you can use this study case for technical experts in space who are not really aware of cybersecurity challenges. And you can also use it for awareness of project managers, directors, etc. That's it. So I hope this presentation was quite enlightening, and that it has enabled you to see that EBIOS Risk Manager is completely usable in a space context because of how it works, how it is conceived, and the fact that it is ISO 27005 compliant. Also, I hope that you've seen that you can use this study case for your training and onboarding purposes, and that it is quite representative of what we have every day in our space context. So feel free to come back to the Club EBIOS for the training kits availability. It may not be until a few weeks, but they will be able to tell you a bit more about it. And thank you for your attention. And the floor is yours if you have any question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eva. Thank you for the interesting talk. Do we have any questions here? Yes, please.
Hi, Wouter Loever from NLR. I was wondering, I've read some things about eBuys before, and I'm very interested. I've been doing a risk analysis for a long time, And I am wondering whether you also plan to release software, because what my problem usually is, how do you manage all this information, especially if you do that A to Z, big, deep, cybersecurity risk analysis?
Okay, thank you. So the main point of this study was to create a new use case for the training kit, so basically for students on paper. So we, as in our company, are not planning to release a software to support ABOS Risk Manager, but just know, if you're interested in it, that you have available softwares that has been designed for this, so it already exists, and you can use it if you're interested in. You can have a look on it online, and you'll find many references. I'm not going to advertise anyone, but you'll find some.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Do we have another question here?
Hi, Matthias Michalski from Airbus. I was wondering if you compared the methodology of EBIOS-RM and ISO 27005, what would be the key differences, and if those two methodologies are very much aligned, or what are the differences between the two? Thank you.
So thank you. I haven't done a precise analysis of the two, but what I can tell you is that with the last version of ABIOS Risk Manager, you now have a fully compliant method with ISO 27005. So it is not completely different. You'll have a method aligned with international, the international ISO, and you can really use it as a compliant method. So I will not get into all the details because I have not basically studied it, etc. But if you want, you can have a word with Etienne afterwards, or if you want to now.
Yes. Thank you. Etienne Gérin, Priamos owner. So I just want to add a few words. First, thank you very much, Eva. Priamos has performed a comparison of the ISO standard and EBIOS-RM. Please, you need to keep in mind that EBIOS has been just updated a few days ago to realign with the new version of the ISO standard. So there are some few differences. The main difference between the method and the norm is about the loop of the operational and strategic update. And also the fact that we can perform we can build operational scenarios in ISO standard without having to perform previously strategic scenarios. But they are quite similar, if just for that. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I have a question. Yeah, sure.
Hi, Tomasz Kokolewski from Beyond Gravity. I'm not sure to whom to address. I go to you.
You can go to me.
So we are an aerospace defense manufacturer. We make satellites and stuff like that. How out of box is this solution? How ready it is that can we, for example, use this to assess the manufacturing line, like just by taking your toolkit, or do we need some additional changes? Do we need like consultation from your organization to adapt this, or like how readily usable is this?
This method is usable in itself. Basically, when people are using it, they are not modifying the method, but they are appropriating how it can be used. So basically, in the method, you will have workshops that and stating that in workshop 1, you define the mission, the field event, etc., etc. But it doesn't say how. It doesn't say, for example, well, it now has been a bit more detailed, but before it didn't. I mean, for example, you didn't have information on if you needed to have many workshops, if it was the approach that you wanted to have to build and to gather this information, etc. So it's more about an appropriation of the method and how you gather information, how you conduct it, how you compile the information. And you may want to have someone for your risk analysis that has already had an experience in your domain and that already has experience on how to gather this data, how to interact with people, how to understand really the challenges that you face. But obviously, we will not rewrite the methods in order to do so. We apply the principles that we have in the methods, and we kind of personalize it afterwards to answer and to perform the risk analysis.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Then I have a question myself. I wanted to know how far did you take into account the requirements, and I would say more the constraints of the new space, where things are moving very fast with a very cost effectiveness, where also most of the missions are commercial. So I wanted to say if the method can be also applied in such an ecosystem with such tight constraints on the cybersecurity.
Yes, of course, you can apply the method with such a context with no restriction, because as we said before, it is not based and especially conceived for long-time systems or for classical constellations, etc. So you can really use it in the new space. But obviously, in the use case that we have built and that I have presented today, it's more of a classical constellation and not really focused on new space. So you may not find a really representative new space use case in the training kit, but you can definitely use EBIOS Risk Manager in new space.
Okay, thank you.